I do enjoy listening to you, India.
Arsenal win that possession, and it's broken nicely to Cazorla, 30 metres from goal, plays it to the edge of the area. Alexis Sanchez goes for goal and scores. That's a brilliant goal from Alexis Sanchez. He's been Arsenal's star man this season, and maybe now they're going to get the ball.
Hello and welcome to the season finale of Gooners in the USA. Mike, with this being our season finale, does that mean one of us is going to die and the listeners won't know who it is until next season?
We're going to keep a cliffhanger ending to this so that you have to tune in August when we come back, which we've just re-signed our contract to do. Yeah,
or does one of our two guests go down in the flames, and we find out next season who survives out of the two of them?
Yeah, we didn't tell anybody. Well, we didn't tell them about that little twist in this, but let's introduce them, because we have two guests today who are the first people making their second appearance on the show. And we invited you guys on for a couple reasons. First of all, we know that you get on well with each other. And second, because you both represent very pivotal moments of our early podcasting lives in this, our first season. So first, welcoming back Danny, the GFP. No one knows your last name, do they?
Sweet man, and I am.
Yes, we know that if we follow your daughter on Twitter, who you constantly mention.
And there is no family tree because my nan gave it away. So I've got no idea who my granddad is.
Wait, who did she give it to?
Well, a little bit of history for you. I know you Americans, history only goes back, about 10 years. But in World War II, my nan lived in Guernsey, and it was occupied by the Germans, and the British went, nah, that's one of our lot, you can have it. And so my nan found that the only way to deal with stuff is to shag all the German Italian soldiers. So my dad's dad was an Italian soldier, my uncle's dad was a German sailor. Hello!
That's a petri dish full of awesomeness right there.
Yeah, plus she was an arsehole.
Well, everyone knows Danny from the Camp Wonderland podcast. And Danny, you were on the 12th ever podcast that we did. And you were our first, not only non-American guest, but our first guest who anyone else outside of Andy and I knew. So we appreciate
American. So I love me a bit of NASCAR and NFL.
Well, we appreciate you elevating our podcast to newer and higher levels and doubling our listeners from 2 to 4. Second, we welcome back to the pod someone who I have a faint memory of having been on our 16th podcast whilst battling a severe case of food poisoning. We have with us author and columnist and Dennis Bergkamp friend and confidant, Chaz Nuki-Burden. Welcome back, Chaz.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
It's nice to meet you.
Yes, it is. Yes, for the first time. Let's shake hands. Yes.
Yes, we're going to do it right this time. All I've got is a Diet Coke in front of me this time. Funniest thing I've heard about you recently is that apparently you are the world's worst house guest, at least for about 8 minutes in Highbury last weekend.
Yes. So basically, I did a shout out on Twitter about 3 or 4 weeks ago asking if anybody had a flat at the old Highbury Stadium, because I really wanted to go back properly and have a real look around to all the bits that you can only get to if you have a flat and all of that. And basically what happened was we went around on the pitch, we reenacted various iconic goal celebrations. I did the Tony Adams goal v Everton, and the guy who sorted me out with all of this, called James, did the Thierry Henry chest out in front of the Spurs fans celebration. Then after a while, he said, look, we can actually go into the flat, which he only owns. He doesn't live there. He rents it out. And I had to get to Wembley because there was a small matter of a match there against Chelsea, as you'll remember, the old cup final. And basically, we went into this flat, and I thought, we'll go onto the balcony, we'll take some pictures, and then I'm going to Wembley because I've got to be there so soon after this to collect my ticket from a stranger. So I couldn't muck about. I had to be in and out really quickly. And when we got there, within about 10 seconds of getting to the flat, I realised I was really up shit creek because the couple had dressed up massively. I mean, I've never met them before, but they looked dressed up, right? And then they ushered us through to the living room where they had this enormous sort of presidential spread of cold
foods you don't eat.
Yeah, cold meat, cheese, chilled champagne bottles in ice with these big posh champagne flutes. Now, don't eat meat, I don't eat cheese, I don't drink alcohol, and I had to be gone in a matter of a few minutes. And I thought, I'm going to look so rude. So they had some hummus and some carrots. So I went and sort of manically ate them like someone had just emerged from 10 years captivity with Hezbollah who hadn't eaten. Because I just thought, if I need to eat everything I can to offset the fact that I'm not going to eat anything else. And then I asked if I could have a glass of water, and they gave me this big, it was more or less like a pint glass, and I necked it in one again because I was so nervous. I was thinking, I need to show that I'm grateful for everything. I nearly bought the whole load back up again then afterwards because I'd had it. And then I said, anyway, I've got to go to Wembley because I'm meeting someone at Wimpy, which is a really, really naff burger bar that we have over here. And,
it's no Wendy's, that's for sure.
And exactly. And when the woman showed me to the door, they were a Russian couple, young Russian couple. She did look at me like, I don't know what all that was about, but you're a very, very odd person. I think she thought it was quite odd that we wanted to even go to the stadium. But I loved being there, and it was amazing to be back in the old place. That's
great. You know what I would have done in those 8 minutes? I would have polished off all the meat, polished off all the alcohol. It just would have been.
Got hammered.
They might have been upset that I left after 8 minutes, but they wouldn't have wasted all that food.
That's what we call miking.
Yeah, it's a little known. It's the newest thing on Twitter. Speaking of Twitter, last night I was a bad boy. I did something that according to Andy, returns me to being a virgin, which is I went to a WWE event. Danny, I'm sure Chris will tell you all about it, but I went with my son Jake, who legitimately is a virgin, we think. And I held up various signs, including a shameless plug for this podcast, an Arsenal crest, kind of worlds colliding sort of thing, and got some interesting tweets back. So I just want to thank, first of all, on Facebook, Mark Johnston for his elegant comment of "put your goddamn sign down, jerk." That was one that I liked. From a Spurs fan on Twitter, "Hey WWE, you need to eject whoever brought that gross Arsenal sign to Extreme Rules." And from Rowdy Seymour, "No damn clue why someone held up an Arsenal sign in the crowd at Extreme Rules." So there's a lot of love for me on the internet last night. But you know what they say, no publicity is better, all publicity is good publicity, or something like that. Anyway, last time you spoke to Andy, he was with child. Now he has a child.
I do.
How's Oliver doing? We have to have our weekly update. And
he is awesome. I don't understand how such a small being can shit so much. But other than that, he's been wonderful.
Believe me, I can tell you that big beings shit a lot too.
But no, he's great. He's great.
Is it true that he was just named the starting keeper for the U1 World Cup qualifiers coming up?
Yes. We have him on human growth hormone to really help with that.
He's 6'4" now, and he's from the Czech Republic.
Yeah.
All right, so this is an Arsenal podcast.
It is.
So we're gonna do a little bit of review of the season, and we put some Twitter polls up, or twatter polls as Danny likes to call them.
I didn't rig my one at all, did I?
You didn't.
I don't know. We'll have to see. I'm going to reveal some of the answers of those in just a little bit, but we have some generic kind of classic Arsenal questions about the season in review that we just want to discuss between the four of us. So, Andy, why don't you get us started with some of those categories?
Yeah, I wanted to know, gentlemen, what your goal of the season was.
I think there's probably going to be unanimous consent here, but why don't we start with you, Chaz?
I mean, it's got to be between Giroud and Ramsey. I guess I'm going to go for. In fact, I was there for the Giroud one, and it was a real privilege to be there because in the years I've supported Arsenal, which is since 1979, obviously we've scored some amazing goals, particularly during the Wenger era. Although we got some classics in all the eras, but quite often I've not been there. Like when you think of some of the real belters under Wenger, look at Bergkamp's best two, the third at Leicester in 1997 and the one at Newcastle in 2002. You know, they're both away from home and all too often you miss them. But the reason I'll go for the Ramsey one is just because I've never ever known a end at a football match go so mental as it did at Wembley for that one. And I was there for, like his winner against Hull in 2014 and numerous other, I've been to finals, I've seen us win the league and stuff, but I've never ever for one goal known people in the ground to go that crazy. So
just the juxtaposition with the sorrow from a minute earlier, you've got to assume led into that.
Yeah, it's weird because when I left, somebody was talking to me and they said, "Oh, how long was there between Chelsea's equaliser and Ramsey's winner?" And I said, about 5 minutes. And obviously it was about 28 seconds or something. But when you were there, it felt like about 5 minutes. It's really weird. But yeah, Ramsey.
Danny?
All right, so it's not going to be unanimous. But Danny, what do you think?
I think I'm going to have to agree with Chaz here. My favourite goal of all time is going to be Tony Adams' Highbury when we beat Everton and to win the league in '98, because that was one of my favourite game of all time. But this, the FA Cup final this season, is right up there with one of my favourite games of all time. Ramsey's goal is one of my favourite goals of all time. And it's not often you hear me. Normally, if Arsenal score, I just look at the telly and I go, meh, I don't really care. I'm so apathetic about everything to do with Arsenal at the moment. But for the whole of that game, I was squealing like a 12-year-old at a Justin Bieber concert. I haven't been that worked up for a game. Even the North London derbies, which are usually the only things I get worked up for, wasn't a patch on me screaming like a girl at the TV. It was amazing, and I thought it was about 5 or 6 minutes between the goals, like Chaz says, but no, it's a very short length of time, and just the culmination of everything that was going on. Chelsea had scored. We were on our arses, about to do the usual Arsenal collapse. I thought, here we go, it's going to end up being 3-1. And then Ramsey, who is the player who's come through the most amount of grief in his Arsenal career, that is still there and doing wonders, for him to score that goal, for us to go back ahead, for it to the way he scored the goal, which was absolutely magnificent, and what it meant. And so that's easily my favourite goal of the season. I did like Ozil's chip against Ludogorets. That was a pretty good one, but that was like Sunday League football. I mean, that team was absolutely pants. There's a few other great. Every goal Sanchez has scored all season would be up there. Yeah, but just for what it meant for Ramsey, and again, scoring a goal in the FA Cup final, every kid's dream. So, yeah, that'd be Ramsey.
Oh, awesome. Well, then we're going with impactful goals as well as high tactically skilled goals as well. I got to go with the scorpion kick, although I do give a nod to the Ramsey goal for what it meant, and not just because of the skill involved in sticking your foot out at that angle, which I can't even do just without a ball anywhere near me. But the lead up to that goal, I mean, starting with the turnover, which was well deep in our own end, and just the entire fluid movement down the field, pitch, and and culminating in that goal kissing off of the crossbar was just, I mean, I don't think you can top that in pure sheer quality of a goal. So that's it for me.
Was there no ding for turnover?
No, turnover is an American term.
Oh, what's the ding? Go on.
The ding is for a classical British type of colloquialism that we only hear when we're talking about football.
Danny,
this whole time.
That fucking bell is bullshit. It's bullshit. It is.
You need to get it, put it in a block of ice, and beat him to death with it.
That's what you know what, man? It's like we live with the same brain.
Yeah, apart from I would never refer to anybody as man.
We've done 45 podcasts. We've done 45 podcasts. And
what if I said broski?
Nothing that I do. We haven't come to an agreement on anything that we both like yet. Yet we've done 45 podcasts.
We have. Goal of the season for me, definitely. I'm going to echo Danny and Chaz and say the Ramsey goal, and I think mostly because. One goal all season, but when it matters, he came up, and he's just one of those players that I think every Arsenal supporter has a love-hate relationship with, but got to give him credit. He scores when it matters. So I'm going to go goal of the season with Ramsey. This particular question is going to be a little bit harder, but what did you guys think, or what are your opinion on the assist of the season? And I'll go first to give you guys some thought, but I'm actually going to go same goal, Giroud. I thought being on the pitch for, less than a minute and being able to conjure such a beautiful cross. I said it on last week's pod. It was something that you expect from the likes of Ozil, not necessarily your 6-foot whatever striker. So I'm going to go assist of the season would be Mr. Olivier Giroud. Mike, I'll go to you next.
I gotta agree with that. Other than Danny's assist by mentioning us on his podcast back in October, I got to go with that one as well. I mean, Giroud's involved for me in the goal and he scored the goal and provided the assist of the season, which is why I just can't envision giving him away or even selling him at this point, which doesn't look like it's going to happen. But like we talked about with Lee last week, I mean, most of your number nines are not going to be able to make that cross. They're not even going to attempt or try to get to that ball. And it was just beautiful coming straight off the bench, like you said. So Giroud's assist wins it for me. How about you, Danny?
I'll have to agree with that one, but I'm also going to, because we all seem to be agreeing on the most important stuff, because it wasn't a magnificent game and magnificent performance by every single player. But I think I want to give any assist to Bellerin now that he's playing at right wing back, because some of the stuff he is doing down that right hand side, and we know he's not fully fit. There was talk that he's having to have an operation at the end of the season. He did go for a stage where he was terrible. He wasn't playing and he was coming off and then wasn't playing the whole games. And I was thinking, well, why are they playing him? But then towards the end of the last 4 or 5 games of the season, he was playing regularly. I know that's because the Ox was out, but he didn't seem to be looking that injured. But him next season is going to be a thing of beauty, him playing right wing back, because when he was first come in to play at right back, we used to go, he's fantastic going forward, but he can't defend. Then he had a season of learning to defend and he was brilliant, and now he's doing defending and attacking, and some of the stuff that he does down that right wing. I mean, if you're a left back, you've going to want to call in sick that day when you're playing against Arsenal, because he is going to turn you inside out. So some of the stuff that he has done down that right hand side have been absolutely brilliant. And I think one game he had 2 assists in the same game. I can't remember what it was. It might have been Sunderland or Stoke or something like that. It was one of the recent ones. I know it wasn't Everton. So, yeah, I'd say anything Bellerin has done as a right wing back, not a right back.
Yeah, he came through his rough patch and obviously responded to the supporters who kind of gave him a hard time, to say the least, in April with in spades. I mean, he looks ready to go for next season. Hopefully he'll be fit and right. But Chaz, what do you think about the assist of the season?
I know it's going to be predictable, but I'm going to go for the Giroud one as well, but I'll go into it a bit. Firstly, I love the symmetry with the 2014 winner, which was the same thing. It was, well, not exactly the same, but it was like Giroud assisting for Ramsey to score the winner. But also, Giroud is someone who, I've always said this about football, if anybody scores for your team, you're delighted, you're ecstatic. But there's always been, generally in any squad, a player where I'm particularly pleased for them when they scored, as well as being pleased for the fact that our team have scored, if you get what I mean. And I'd say Giroud, or if they've assisted, and I'd say Giroud is pretty much one of those guys for Arsenal at the moment for me, and actually Ramsey is as well. And so I loved watching those two combined, because they've both come through so much abuse from their own fans, particularly Giroud. And just every time he scores, or assists in this case, I'm just absolutely delighted, because I just think of all the people who've, just been so ridiculously anti him. And I'm not quite sure why. I mean, obviously he is a frustrating player, and obviously he's not the striker that we necessarily want to have. But if there's a player all the time I've liked Arsenal, who's given more. He always gives, in my opinion, 100% on the pitch. He's always trying his best. He's a very honest player, I think, Giroud. It's like he's limited to a degree in his abilities, but he's very honest with that. And, I mean, he can act like a bit of a prat sometimes, and he pulls these funny faces, and I'm sure, there are some people who, are just frankly just jealous of the way he looks. I mean, I have no issue with that. I just think his beard is ridiculous. I mean, we're back to people emerging from Hezbollah captivity for the second time. We're only, 10 minutes into the pod? Or 20 minutes. Amazing. But, so I'm going to go with Giroud because, the symmetry with 2014, the fact it was such a crucial one, the symmetry of 2014, the fact he'd just come on, and the fact that every time he does something good, it pisses off stupid Gooners. So that's good.
Perfect. Worst player of the season.
Did we? Okay, Danny did give his assist. Sorry, that's my bad.
Yes, it is your bad. So, worst player of the season. This is an uplifting topic. I'll start off first. I'm going to be quick. It's a tie between Francis Coquelin and Chuba Apcom. I thought this was Chuba's year, and nothing, absolutely nothing. So it's one of those two for me. Andy.
Yeah, I don't necessarily know if this is like a terrible category, but maybe we should have labeled it probably not fit to be in the first or the starting 11 every week. But I would have to echo. I'd say probably Coughlin. I think he's a great depth player when we need someone to come off the bench. But there was just that big string of games where he started and we were losing a bunch, and it just seemed there were a couple opportunities throughout the season as well, specifically Tottenham. Was that this season where he just regardless, just comes on 2 foots and then he's done. So I would just say that I'm not particularly the biggest fan of him. So that would be my worst player of the season.
We should bring him on just for goal celebrations because he is fantastic at that. But when it comes to jumping on a guy or rolling around on the ground, I mean, he's amazing. But then when he tries to do that in a game, it doesn't work out so well. Chaz, what do you think? Do you have a negative word to say about anybody?
Oh, I do. So many. But weirdly, I've actually, and I'm amazed even this has happened, but I've actually opened up the official website just to look through the squad and find, I mean, I guess, to be honest, I'll just go on. I do still find Theo Walcott just a peculiar character. I just don't I just wonder when the point comes at which we stop treating him like, because I still feel like we all regard him a bit like a sort of an 18 or 19-year-old who's only been in first team football for a year or two. And we're all sort of thinking, well, we have to give him a chance to establish himself. But, he can have all the boyish features he likes. The fact is he's been with us for 11 years now. And it just feels like another season's gone by where he has contributed, he has done stuff, but it's all been these sort of dips and peaks and troughs. And so I think he would be one that I do. Also, and this is not really through any fault of his, but I do think the Lucas Perez situation is genuinely bizarre. When you think about how when we signed him, there was talk like, is he going to be the answer to all the striking issues we've had and stuff? And so he's not been there, but I can't actively blame him for that. So yeah, I'll go for Theo because I just feel like again he's not blown us all away.
And the question now becomes how much less than 16 million do we get for Lucas in the summer? What kind of loss do we take on that? And for Theo, has anyone ever had a worse or more objectionable 19 goal season? I don't think so.
Has Theo scored after he got his new coffee machine?
He's gotten in more fights than goals, I think. After that, but and Danny, who's stunk it up for you this season?
Well, I'm going to give it as a joint award to Jeff Rennie, Adelaide, and Ashley Maitland-Niles.
There it is.
Thank you very much. That's from the Tuesday Club, nothing to do. We just stole it. But when you consider that they've both played 3 League Cup games, they've both played 3 FA Cup games, and Ashley has played 1 Premier League game. Now, I've been a big fan of both of these players for quite a while. But admittedly, Ainsley hasn't been playing in his proper position. He's been playing in a bit of full-back, a bit of right-back, which he's never really played before. But the pair of them have done absolutely nothing in the games that I've seen. I mean, when you're playing 2 of those FA Cup games against non-league teams where people of a similar situation as them are now playing for I think it was Sutton United, 3 ex-Arsenal youth players there, they did absolutely nothing. I mean, probably out of the pair of them, the Jeff, as we like to call him, was by far the worst. He did bugger all. He was playing in his best position out wide, and he did nothing. It's not like he didn't have the chance against much inferior opposition. I was just really disappointed because both of them have come through the ranks, and they've both had really good under 23 and under 21 and under 18 and under 19, all the different levels that we've played at in various competitions. They've all played quite a few games, and they've both been dominating in some of the games they've been playing there. And they've just been so disappointing because most of our youth setup is absolutely rubbish. I kind of expected those two to have an effect on the first team that Alex Iwobi did when he came through to the first team towards the end of last season. I suppose we could chuck Alex Iwobi in with that as well because he's had a dog shit season.
Oh, that's a good shout as well. That's a good shout because when when he started the season off, he looked like a revelation, and then it was right around the time of the first North London derby at our place that it just seemed like he was running out of steam a little bit, and it took a little longer than I think a lot of people would have liked to see his starting role reduced. But from that point on, there was really not much from him. So some news flashes that we have from the last week or so since the FA Cup, Andy. Has Arsene Wenger made any announcements? I'm leading Andy along because he seems to be sleeping.
No, I thought we were going to go into game of the season.
Oh, all right. Well, we could do that.
I think we'll all probably agree that the FA Cup is, because not only was it just an amazing final, but to cap off a season of just being so up and down roller coaster. We can do a quick round the table, but I would say FA Cup final 100%.
Yeah, I mean that was the game of the season. If we exclude that, I would actually pick the two Burnley games just for their late drama. You almost feel bad for Burnley. One game in the 92nd minute on a handball, most likely a handball from Koscielny, and then the next game was. I mean, you got to love a game where we got Arsene Wenger telling fourth officials to fuck off and shoving them around, and then scoring a late winner, a penalty in the 99th minute or whatever the hell it was. So those two games just immediately stuck out to me. They weren't really incredible games through and through, but the endings were certainly nice. But any other games, I guess, other than the FA Cup that stand out for you, Danny?
Yeah, I'm going to go to the Ludogorets one again. And what was the one where Perez scored the hat trick? Just because I like goals with games. How about the other way around? Yeah, I like lots of goals in games. And we got 5 against Lincoln, but that was they battled hard and we didn't really. I think it was 1-0 at half time. And I think the Bayern Munich games, they were hilarious. I mean, they brought a smile to my face because I thought at any moment Wenger was going to get sacked. And he didn't get sacked for either of those two. And then Southampton in the FA Cup, it's always nice to smash those because they're always doing us over. But when we were playing most of those teams, they couldn't even play the full game because they had to be in before tea time because they had a paper round in the morning. So there's been a few games this season when we've scored some goals. Always nice to go to West Ham and smash them as well. So I think I'm probably going to go with the West Ham one just because I hate West Ham. But the Ludogorets one was good. I mean, that hat trick for Ozil. It was a little bit like me playing on FIFA against amateur and scoring a hat trick. That's how excited I got.
We're hearing about a lot of excitement going on in the Sweetman household.
Oh, I'll tell you what, I'm dancing and having fish suppers every night of the week.
Pringles flying all over the place, all over the floor. Chaz, what do you think? Game of the season
anymore?
I think just to mix it up, because obviously the sort of the honest answer would be Chelsea, but just to mix it up, I'll go with the Man City semi-final.
Yes.
It was just quite funny actually, because I was watching it at. I'll come to the actual football in a moment, but I was watching it at home, but using a login that needed Wi-Fi basically, and our Wi-Fi is so reliable, but of course it kept screwing up. So I kept in the thing was buffering, and then at half time I thought got to go to a pub and watch it in a pub. The first one I went to, they had it on a tiny little screen. It was like a Mac screen. Size up on the wall with no sound, and the pub was full of people with their kids. So it's like the pub was basically, there were more kids than adults in this pub, right? And when I bought my drink, I said to Barnum, I said, "Oh, could you pop the sound up on the football bit?" And he said, "Oh, well, no, we don't want to upset the children." And I thought, well, that's a strange sort of pub, you know what I mean? Like, God, they're taking over. And then I ended up in this other pub, and I just remember amidst all this how lucky we were. I thought we were really lucky, and I don't say that dismissively. I love it when we're lucky, because I loved the George Graham years, and we were so lucky during some of the time. We were known as Lucky Arsenal, and it was a fair assessment. And I actually think at the beginning of this season, there were a whole load of games: Southampton, PSG away, Burnley, Swansea. There seemed to be all these matches where we were really, really lucky and we were getting away with it. And I like that. I like a lucky match. We've not actually had that many lucky wins under Wenger. Generally, when we've won, quite often we've deserved to. But yeah, the Man City one I'll go with just because, well, partly to avoid another Chelsea answer, but also because I think that it says a lot about our season, that we won the FA Cup this time, having beaten Man City in the semis in the semi-final and then Chelsea in the final. I think that's a proper achievement.
Yeah, you certainly can't point and laugh at our previous 2 rounds, which were admittedly a little on the lucky side draw-wise. But to finish off with those 2 clubs, like you said, it's the proper way to do it.
So Arsene signs a new contract, but he's also come out and said that he doesn't believe, or Ozil and Alexis will not leave this summer, leading to believe that either we're going to let them go on a free or we'll sell them in January. I'll go to Danny on this. Do you believe Arsene when he says both of them will be staying this summer and they won't leave, or do you just think that's all smoke and mirrors?
If Arsene Wenger told me my name was Danny, I'd ring my mum and ask for my birth certificate. I don't believe a word that man says. He is a manipulator and a liar and a half-truth teller, but he's our manager, and I support his decision to stay. But it's just so annoying because I suppose you can't come out like a few years ago. They come out and went, we have £1 billion war chest, and everybody knew. Arsene Wenger's on the phone. Right, go and put some noughts on the end of that player's figures because it's Arsenal ringing. So I suppose you do have to play the game. You do have to tell lies. But Sanchez, I can't see Sanchez staying. I know. And Chaz said on our podcast that he didn't rate Sanchez or he was bad for the team or something.
You wrote a piece on that, didn't you?
And I hope you haven't been and had a look at the YouTube comments for that, Chaz, because you're probably going to have a little cry because they are vicious. Me and Kimley were sticking up for you, but I hope Sanchez stays, and I hope Ozil stays because they're playing in this new formation. Ozil seems to not have the pressure of being the only one playing in the hole. He can have someone playing beside him, which is Sanchez, and Sanchez can go forward, and Ozil doesn't have to go beyond the halfway line because he will know that he gets a nosebleed if he has to go there and do any kind of defending. But I hope they both stay. But I think it probably might be better for Arsenal if Ozil goes because we get the money for him and then the Ox can play in the Ozil position. And it's probably better for Sanchez if he goes because he'll go to Bayern Munich and win 50 league titles in a row and score a couple of 100 goals a season because he's that good. But we'll miss them. I don't think we're ever going to get worldies like that at the club again because if a club has got a player that's world class like both of those 2 are, then we want 50 million from. We're going with 50, and Man City will go here have 100 million. They're Man City this pre-season are not messing around. They're going, how much do you want for the player? Right, here's an extra 5 million. We'll have him gift wrapped.
Yeah, they really are. Chaz, where do you see if Ozil were to leave? Where do you think he would go? I mean, what club? Because it's not like he could go back to La Liga. So does he follow Sanchez to go to Bayern, or what are your thoughts there? Because I don't believe for a minute he goes to Turkey.
No, I don't think he would. I think he would have to go to Germany. I did see somewhere him saying something about how he'd love to go to Barcelona, but I don't see that happening for a number of reasons. I actually think Ozil is, of the 2 of them, I think Ozil is the one that's likely to stay, whereas I think Sanchez is the one that's likely to leave. However, you can flip it around the other way because much as I do criticise aspects of Alexis, I think that actually perhaps being at Arsenal will suit him in regards to that it does play to what I talk about. Because what I talk about in the article and on the pod the other week was, how he wants to make everything about him. And, I don't want to sort of go too far down that road, but Arsenal and Wenger, that is going to work for him there. If he goes to another club with another manager, how can he know that that's going to be tolerated there? Having said that, perhaps he doesn't want it tolerated. Perhaps there's a part of Alexis that's secretly crying out for an Alex Ferguson type manager who will give him the hairdryer treatment in the dressing room and say, look, you're brilliant, you're magnificent, you're great at scoring goals, you put in a shift, you do assists, you're skillful, you're committed, but you need to start playing for the team. Maybe he's waiting for somebody to do that. And Wenger is never, ever going to do that, I fear. I just can't imagine Wenger telling him that. I've heard stuff about Wenger hating confrontation to the extent that, because I've been reading Tony Adams' second, and he says how, when Ian Wright was arriving late for training, Wenger just moved the time of training rather than confront him with the fact that he was being late. And there's all these stories in the book about that. So I think, Ozil, it would have to be Germany, but I just think that he'll probably stay because I think that he's a player who, and this is going to sound terribly sort of, precious but I think he is a player that's easily misunderstood. And I think that he knows that Wenger gets him. And the other thing about Alexis is, I think I'm right that he's done 3 years wherever he's gone. I think everywhere he's gone, he's signed a 3-year deal, and he's
got that Mourinho-itis situation with
him.
Yeah.
And so maybe he will go. And as for, what you asked Danny about, that I agree with Danny. I mean, I often do actually, but there's no reason for Wenger to come out and say, oh, they're both staying if they are. Do you see what I mean? The only reason he'd say that is if perhaps they're not, and he's trying to just get a lighter summer for him, or as is most likely that he actually doesn't know.
I think he's drawing the line in the sand, and basically saying we're not going to have to do what we did with Van Persie. We're not going to do, what we've done in the past with players who are entering the last year of their contract just because they don't want to re-sign. I think he's not afraid to lose either one of them on a free, although I don't think it'll ever get to that point with Ozil. And that's what scares the heck out of me, because the one thing that he can do to control where Alexis goes if he doesn't stay with us and keep him out of the Premier League for one of our rivals is to sell him. Right. And he's, I fully believe he won't be sold this summer. I do believe that. I just think he's going to enter the last year of his contract as the world's best player who's available on a free and a pre-contract agreement in January. And how's that for undermining our entire season next season?
So, have you guys been privy to the Ozil Instagram post today?
No.
Oh, no.
So he posted a picture of himself in the car with a massive smile, and the caption just writes M10 with a smiley face, leading a lot of people to believe that he has signed a new contract and will take that number 10 shirt off of Wilshere. Now, obviously a lot of speculation and rumor, but I mean,
I was about to ask you guys where the M10 goes in England. Like, is that a highway?
But
if it goes to Norwich or something, does that a big?
No, nothing goes to Norwich.
So just curious if you guys saw that, but interesting, and I guess we'll kind of see what unfolds in the next couple days. But it seems to me that he will probably be the happiest player in the Arsenal squad with Arsene re-signing, and hopefully that means that he did sign an extension and we get to keep him, because like Danny said, who knows when the next world-class player is going to join the squad, but when we have a player like him, we could probably do a better job at recruiting some of those. So just an interesting post on Instagram that he posted 13 hours ago, so this morning. But we'll see what happens.
By the way, the M10 is apparently a former motorway that used to go to Hemel Hempstead.
Oh, I lived there for a while. Yeah.
Weren't you born there? Yeah. Little trivia that you...
Synchronicity is very finest there.
It's amazing. But I like your interpretation of what that post means more than mine, though. Just to be clear. So, who else is leaving this summer or isn't leaving this summer?
That's a long list. Who is leaving?
We'll address that in one of our user questions. But as far as who may be coming in, on January 8th, so almost 5 months ago, our guest that week, who was Hipster Chris,
very well, bullshit,
answered a question about who's the best player no one knows about in Ligue 1 that Arsenal should have their eye on. And it was then that I learned about young Kylian Mbappe Lotin. He even has an extra name. That was the hipster portion of everything. But
so, what was the question you asked, Chris?
Kind of who's the best player that we haven't really heard of yet?
That would be everybody in that feeder league.
Well, exactly. But so we were kind of looking for who should we pick up for £8 million in the summer before he gets good, and he went for Mbappe. And of course, at that point, he had 3 league goals and a hat trick in their version of the League Cup. He ended up with 26 goals in all competitions, and now has basically £100 million price tag. Do you believe that we've actually put in a bid for him? Because it's been said that we've put in 1, if not 2 bids.
I don't believe it. I'll go. I don't believe it. I think that it's going to be really awkward when Monaco do turn around. If the bids are true and they say, yeah, we'll accept that one, and Arsenal goes, fuck, we did actually meet it. We didn't actually mean it. We figured you'd always say no. But no, I can't believe for a second that we get that type of a player so young. I mean, it's being a great investment because we could probably sell him on for $150 million in a few years.
That's the thing. That's the thing that Chelsea does. The thing that Real does. I mean, they splash the money, but they buy guys that are going to have resale value. Unless, I mean, it's rare to end up with a Di Maria situation where you spend that much money on the guy and you sell him for half of what you bought him for. These guys are good investments.
I don't see it happening. Danny, what are your thoughts?
Well, a little bit of inside information on ABW here. We've put in a £3.50 bid for Alan Davis, and we've put in a £6 bid for Andrew from Arscast. Just because we made the bids doesn't mean they're coming. At least we tried, and also we've put in a cheeky £1.86 bid for Corporal Jenkinson just for the banter. So we are hoping that all those bids will be accepted, although they're probably worth millions. Bullshit.
But if Andrew if he accepts the bid, who are you going to kick off the podcast to make room for him? I mean, you can't do that.
Gimli.
You can't do that to young Gimli.
We've got too many Welsh on that pod. We've got John Welsh, we've got Gimli who's Welsh, and we've got Davis who is Welsh, and all three of them, quite frankly, only one of them's got a shit beard. The other two can't even grow a beard. But it's just typical Arsenal bullshit, isn't it? If a player is available for the going rate that we think Mbappe is going to go for, every time I say that, Hansen comes into my head. It's so bloody annoying. Yeah, so it's going to be about 130 million for Real Madrid or one of those clubs. Yeah. So we come in and go, they might as well offer a fiver. Oh, we tried to buy and we've made an offer. Bullshit. You've gone and deliberately made an offer. You know it won't be accepted, just so it will go in the papers and it'll be, coincidentally, it's about the time of year when people are wanting to renew their season tickets. Oh, we put in a £17.50 bid for Messi. Oh, well, I think hopefully they'll accept it. You know they're not going to accept it. You're just playing the game. Yet again, more bullshit. And it drives me crazy. Don't make any bids.
Agree.
Thank you.
Chaz, thoughts? Concerns?
Yeah. I wonder whether they do just make these bids just for a laugh. I mean, I would be tempted to if I ran a club. I'd just say, look, let's just go and put in a bid for pretty much everyone. Let's put in a bid for Messi and just muck about like that. But I see Wenger and Gazidis who are in Nice, just down the road from Monaco, so that's going to get people talking. And in fact, when you look at the pictures, if you just have a look on Twitter, if you haven't seen them, if you're listening to this, just type Wenger and Nice into Twitter. And I quite like the pictures because Gazidis looks so in charge in the pictures. It's almost as if he's sort of, because they're supposed to have had this chat before Wenger re-signed him for Arsenal as manager. They're supposed to have had these chats where Gazidis has sort of sat him down and sort of said, you've got to get serious now if you're staying. Now, I don't think many of us buy that. I think most of us see that Wenger is in every way in charge of that relationship, even though Gazidis is technically his line manager. But I do like the idea that Gazidis has sort of like dragged him onto a plane and said, we're going to go and put in a bid for, and we're going to get serious and we're going to go to Nice. However, they might just be having a holiday. Who knows? Wenger has got some shopping bags at some of them.
He did have some shopping bags, which led me to believe if he's just paying people in lumps of cash now, because he's just all of a sudden turned into this gangster manager. 3 at the back, and now he's just going to mafia-style people in cash.
I saw some tweet with that caption of that picture, Arsene Wenger now having to get used to buying fourth place trophies again, or something like that. But yeah, it'd be nice if they came home with Kylian Mbappe in a shopping bag. He's already left his house once empty-handed last summer, but I think if Mbappe's got good advisors, they might actually be suggesting that he play for a club like Arsenal, even if it's just for a few years on his way to Real Madrid. Too many people have gotten lost in the shuffle getting big money moves to Real Madrid where they're not necessarily going to always be the man there. And I think at 20 or 19 or whatever he is, I think that'd be a big mistake. So, I mean, why not spend 110 million pounds on him? TV money will allow, teams to Real Madrid to pay 200 million for him in 3 or 4 years.
We won't be paying 110 million for every single player we buy in the summer collectively, let alone for one player. That is never going to happen.
No.
Well,
I put one of my cats on it. It's Bergkamp, the one I don't really like. He's miserable.
Well, I think don't think it's for real, but I believe me, I'd love to see it happen. I'm sure all of you would.
So how much do you think we're going to spend? Go on, Chaz.
I was going to say he's just a little bit too young to probably remember Henry at his peak at Arsenal. I was just sort of working out the maths in my head. But having said that, he might have grown up hearing about how, Anelka and then Thierry Henry went to Arsenal, and certainly, particularly in the case of Thierry Henry, what Wenger did for him, what Arsenal did for him. So it's not beyond the realms of possibility that I think it would not be an unsmart move for him to go to Arsenal for the reasons that you just laid out. But I think the worries is are people smart? It's like when Dennis Bergkamp came to Arsenal. This was like the earthquake signing of Arsenal's history, in my opinion, certainly modern history. And the thing was that I think the fact that he knew that he could make the club about him was a big draw. So therefore, it was actually quite a smart move. He'd been at Ajax, he'd been a legend, he'd gone to Inter. It really hadn't worked out, and I've talked to him personally, as and so I've talked to him about Inter. He absolutely, really, really suffered there. And then suddenly he found this club where he could go and make that club about him. Now, in this case, he's obviously a lot younger than Dennis was when he came. But again, it would be a smart move to do. So it's not beyond the realms of possibility, but I don't know. Maybe they've just gone to buy some clothes in Nice. I actually think that Wenger, if you look at his transfer policy over the years, for a lot of time, it was almost as if his wife had sent him out and said, Arsene, you need some new belts and you need some braces. And he came back with cravats every time. You know what I mean? Arsene, you've got hundreds of cravats. Why do you keep buying? You need some belts. But that's what he was like with us for so long. He'd just go and buy these nippy little creative midfielders when we were all going, no, we need a centre back and a defensive midfielder and an old fashioned centre forward. So I imagine he's probably quite weird to go shopping with, whether it's for players or.
That would be a fascinating thing for Arsenal, for the Arsenal player to go on a shopping trip with Arsene Wenger. Maybe he's looking at Balotelli again.
No, he's off to look at that Jean-Michel Seri bloke, isn't he?
I was about to say.
I thought he was the one who did that music there. That's Jean-Michel Jarre. But he's had a great season because Nice have made it to the Champions League, and this bloke plays midfield, 34 games in the league, 7 goals. I think that's 10. What's that? PD. I'm looking at the French version of it. Passes decisive. I think that probably means assists. So 10 assists. That's pretty good. But he's 25. Yeah. I look at the Mbappe. Stop doing that bloody music every time I say it. No, it's not going to listen to me. I look at the Mbappe situation, much like the Anelka situation. It's like you lot were saying, it's an investment for the future. There's no way that he would stay at Arsenal for long, but he knows if he goes to any of the massive clubs, he is not going to get. I mean, look at James Rodriguez. He was the shining light of the World Cup, and he's gone there and he's played lots of games, but he hasn't been a regular, which is what a lot of players want. So if he came to Arsenal, he'd have 2 or 3 years of probably playing almost every single game, probably get best part of 40 games a season. Then we can go on and move him on to Real Madrid or Barcelona, and then we can go and buy ourselves a new training pitch or something like we did with Anelka, training centre.
That's what I'm saying. It makes sense. It makes sense. This is an investment.
It won't happen.
But no, it won't happen. But
that's a question I've got. If anybody knows, if we buy a player for 100 million and then we sell him for say 130 million, do we pay tax on that 130 million? Because surely that would wipe out any kind of profit. I've always wondered that, because I know you do on Championship Manager, which is how my life is. Everything in life is made. Oh, the cat's knocked something over.
That's actually a question for our accountancy podcast that we do on Wednesday nights.
Is it?
Yeah,
it's
accountants and us.
It's called Wage Packets and You.
I should ask Fife, he'll know.
Yeah, don't you have some wage experts?
Oh, we do.
Or Hillwood and whatnot?
Yeah, and Fife. Between those two, there's nothing they don't know. And if they don't know, they'll make it up because none of us have realised they're lying.
Yeah, I have that. I listened to his discussion about wages, and I came away from it saying, I don't know what he just said, but I'll stop bitching about wages for a little while because he sounded like he knew what he was talking about.
Oh, they do.
There's a lot of battle amongst Arsenal supporters this season. We've seen it, who to blame for the underwhelming or whatever they feel went wrong this season. A lot of people want to blame Wenger. A lot of people want to blame Kroenke. A lot of people think, if we just had a stronger board, these issues wouldn't be there. And it can get annoying kind of battling and, I think it's Wenger. Oh, I think it's Kroenke. So I've come up with a solution. I'm not going to blame any one person anymore. I'm going to blame a combination person who I've created called Silent Ars Chipsavan Gaskus Wonkenger. And
Sounds like something from Star Wars.
He's from Star Wars, but he's apparently the source of all the evil that has that's taken place at our club. I'll tweet out the full spelling of that, but from now on, and maybe I'll have to come up with a shorter version of that. But from now on, every time something goes wrong, I'm blaming Silent Ars Chipsavan.
Okay.
Can you imagine how much it would cost to get his name on the back of your shirt? I mean,
I've got
the club would have to sign anybody if they signed him first and just got everyone to buy his replica shirt. Especially if you made him number 250 or something. So they're like 3 as well.
I'll name him 1.3 billion or whatever the Usmanov. And I've been told that I look like an American fatter Usmanov as well. So there is that.
You do. You do. It's very true. So, guys, let's go into predictions and finishing position for next season. So, clearly, we don't know what's going to happen on the transfer market, but as Danny has alluded, probably nothing is going to really kind of bring us on the high of an Mbappe. So, looking at this team as it is right now, looking at this team with the formation change and possibly 1 or 2 new players, tell us a little bit about where you think you will finish next season. So I'll go to Chaz first.
Well, I think, just looking at clubs above us this season, Liverpool, Man City, Tottenham, Chelsea, although we obviously don't know what will happen there, and in fact, Man United just behind us, I think, and I might be being optimistic, but I think we can knock Spurs out of that equation next season. I think the 2 things will hit them, I think, Wembley, of course, but also I think, and I don't say this flippantly and seriously all at once, the cheating thing I think will really hit them more than most clubs because they've got some right little cheaters, some right snidey little cheaters in that squad just waiting to be found out. And if the rules are going to change and there's going to be more focus anyway on cheating, I think that and Wembley will knock them out of the running. So I reckon we'll finish 3rd next season. I think that we'll kind of tread water. And, what was it? It was finishing position and one other thing, was it? Or was it just finishing position?
Just finishing position.
Yeah, I think we'll finish 3rd. That will be my prediction.
Danny?
3rd. Oh, dear. I
think I'm going to end up a little bit more on the Danny side here.
I do love the enthusiasm by some of my fellow Arsenal fans. Well, first of all, it's going to be Man United are going to spunk an incredible amount of money because they spent best part of 200 million last season, and that was for the Europa League, and now they're in the Champions League. Man City have already spent best part of 120 million pound. Liverpool, well, I'm surprised. Klopp has now been there a year and a half, and he hasn't gone and had a massive spending binge. But they need a complete new back line, much like Man City do. So they're going to be spending big. They've got some decent players. They've had a really good season. Especially the most important thing about Liverpool is their ability to beat the top teams, which is something we never do, but they do that all the time. So those 3, Everton. Spending big. Mashiri is there, and if Usmanov goes there, they're just going to go and buy everything. They're going to go and buy all the clubs and bankrupt them. You've got so who else is there? I think Spurs have maybe got 1 more season. I agree with what Chaz has said. They're a bunch of dirty dive. Can we say the C word on here?
Yeah.
You have to say it twice.
A bunch of dirty diving shitbag cunt butlers, and but they are going to have 1 more good season before they realise, oh fuck, this stadium's cost us a fortune. Please come and buy all of our mongs, and they'll buy all of them, and then they'll be absolutely fun. I mean, next season they're going to be battling against relegation because they cannot win at Wembley to save their life. So I think, although we're not going to be playing in the Champions League, I think we're going to have a decent run at the Europa League. Personally, I'd want to get out of that Europa League in the very first game, lose 5-0 away and 5-0 at home to Shelbourne in the first qualifying round or whatever round we're in at first. Get that out of the way, fuck the League Cup off straight away, and then just concentrate on the FA Cup and the League Cup, much like Chelsea did. I mean, the FA Cup and the Premier League, like Chelsea did. But depending, I mean, if playing in the Europa League means we're 15 games to get to the final. Now, if we are playing that many games, then we're going to be knackered. So I think it all depends on how serious Wenger's going to take that. But knowing him, he never chucks a competition, does he? He does sometimes stick out the youths when we're playing in the League Cup. But even this season, he was sticking quite a lot of the first team players in there. So I think if we have a good run in the UEFA League, I keep calling it everything. It's not. It's the Europa League. But if we have a good run in that, then we won't finish finish in the top 4. But if we're out of that pretty soon, then we can finish in the top 4. But it all depends on whether Sanchez stays and whether Ozil stays and who we bring in and how much money these other teams go and spend. Yeah, I mean,
really, it could be as high as 2nd and as low as 7th in my mind. Just truly depends on what happens in the next 2 months. Yeah, I've been saying all along though that if the receivables come down, which they have because we haven't qualified for the Champions League, the payables are going to come down and just to balance the books. And I'd be surprised if we splash a lot of cash, even despite the early signs with Hansen and all those guys. But 6th or 7th seems reasonable to me, unless we can keep our entire team intact and avoid is Alexis going to leave on a free thing, which could completely poison our season next season. It could get worse than 7th if that happens.
Yeah. You say we lose out on the Sanchez money, but if Sanchez stays at the club and he does leave on a free, and then he guarantees us top 4 football, then surely the £40 million that he would probably go for at the end of next season, at the moment he'll go for 50, then that'll be made up in the money we make from finishing in the spots and making it to the Champions League.
Right, so that was the theory behind not selling Van Persie when he wanted to leave, and of course we ended up qualifying for the Champions League anyway. But it all depends. All depends. Did you put in a prediction, Andy?
No, I think you guys all hit it on the head. I think for me the biggest thing is I look at our squad and there's just so many players that are not going to make the likes of a Chelsea, a Man City, and arguably somewhat of a Liverpool, and so it's hard for me to see us grow and be able to compete. And as someone said, I mean, City have spent $100 million in the first fucking week after the season is finished, and so we need to do a lot. But there's a lot of players in our squad right now that are just not good enough, and you've got some great squad rotation players, but we really need a few players that are going to push the likes of our starting 11. And I agree with you, Mike. Anywhere from 2nd to 7th, because Chelsea. I mean, what if they add 1 or 2 players? I mean, they're just going to be unstoppable again, and then we'll see what happens. And
if it's 7th, that means one of the traditional teams that never finishes above us will finish above us. Other than Leicester last year, that's going to be. It's going to be a downslide from there.
A sign of times changing will be if we do business early in this transfer window. If he's truly going to change his spots, he will do business before the end of July. He will have those players in Sydney or wherever they're going on their preseason tour, and he will have this team ready to go way before the season kicks off. And I hate the whole adage, well, you can get players cheaper the last week. That doesn't fucking happen. That's just another...
And then you lose your first game and come right out of the gate and don't qualify for top 4. We thought it was changing last year when Granit Xhaka came on and joined the team on their California tour. And that was a mirage because it stopped right there until the last day of August. But yeah, you're absolutely right. He needs to get his business done early. Look at the teams around him and what they're doing, and fold up his tent in late July and say we've done what we need to do. Mm-hmm. And I think that makes a difference. Quickly, we're going to get into some of the Twitter polls that we ran. We won't debate each one individually, but I am interested in the two of your, just like a quick answer to what you would have voted for or what you did vote for. The first Arsenal-related question, worst event of the Arsenal season. We had crashing out of the top 4, Palace away in April, Arsenal extends, I had to throw that in there, and Cazorla injury. Chaz, what do you think the worst event of those 4 would be? And honorable mention, I should have probably put 10-2 to Bayern Munich in instead of one of those. I didn't think about it till after. But of those 4...
I think I'll put the Palace match in just because it was such an awful match, but also because you just saw that sort of the tension and the disappointment and the anger among the fans, in my opinion, boil over the wrong way. And, it got directed at Bellerin. And I don't think it should have been personalised against any player, but I'd put him pretty low on the...
It wasn't really personalised against him, except he happened to be the one literally standing there closest to...
Yes.
And yes. I had the fortune or misfortune of actually being at that game, three rows off the field, and it was, I didn't have the tremendous amount of context to put it in because I haven't been to, 30 years of home and away games, but people told me that was the first time they'd ever seen that level of abuse, especially in an away crowd, which is normally awfully supportive. But sorry, so Palace for you, Danny. What do you think?
Santi just wrecked our season. It took us until the last 10 games of the season and a formation reorganisation to get there. We finally did end the season with 9 wins in 10 games. Half of those teams were on holiday, but magnificent wins against Man City in the semi-final, Chelsea in the final. So there is hope, but I think when you have a major player out for the whole of the season, and Mertesacker as well, when you get someone who is a regular starting 11, one of the first names on the sheet, when you take that out of any team, that team is knackered, and that's happened to us for 2 seasons in a row. And each time that it's happened, it has knackered our season. Although Daniel Cowan from Gooners did put up some stats to show that with and without Santi, we've actually been better without him than we have with him. So I'm not sure if he made that up, but it was an interesting.
I don't see how that's possible, but
I think it's only by a small percentage. We won more games.
Yeah, but Santi just often brings in that Cesc Fabregas type of play where he'll ping a pass out of nothing, and when you don't have that, for me, I thought that the Palace result pushed us into having 3 at the back. So while that was like a huge negative on the season, I almost thought it was also a positive because it gave us the opportunity to change that formation, which had we won that match, maybe we wouldn't have done that.
It's always darkest before the dawn, and that was the last game that they played with 4 in the back.
Yeah, it was. So... But
One good thing about that Palace game is, though, we did a radio show straight after it, and that one ended up getting nearly 16,000 views, when we normally get maybe 6. So thank you very much.
I think I tried to tune into that from the train headed back into central London from there, but couldn't really hear much. But I've got to go with the Palace game. I mean, it was the single darkest moment of not only this Arsenal season, but probably many, many seasons that I can think of, and hopefully again it's always darkest before dawn, and hopefully we'll continue that run. But the favorite of the voting Twitterers is the Cazorla injury with 37% of the vote. Palace game got 30%. Arsene Extends got 18% as being the worst event of the Arsenal season, which is interesting because question 2 was best moment of the season not taking place at Wembley, because I think it would be a landslide otherwise. And the 4 choices were Arsene Extends. I had to throw them into both. Giroud's Scorpion goal, moment before the season started, being the best moment of the season. And a move to 3 at the back. Just quickly, what would you say the answer to that is, Chess, in your mind?
Oh, it has to be one of them.
Well, in this podcast. Of those 4.
Yeah. I'm going to be cheeky and say the moment before the season began, just because it's such an exciting moment every year. And in reality, it has been, even though I'm a Wenger loyalist and generally a positive fan, it was a pretty dire season overall. And I do remember being quite excited just before the season began. So I'll go with that.
Yeah, I thought we were in great shape then, but not so much. Danny, what do you think of those 4?
3 at the back, revolutionised our team, finally joining the thing that everybody's doing in football. All the big teams, they're going for 3 at the back. Chelsea did it after we hammered them. It's the future of football, much like it was in Italian football in the 80s. I love it, and that's changed our season. So we did that and win 9 out of 10. I'm not sure at what point that we changed to the 3 in that run of 10, but yeah, if we stick with that next season, we'll be doing all right.
Yeah. And Andy, what do you think? Best moment for you?
I'd say the 3 at the back, but for me it was mostly just showing that we have a manager who can actually change, because we very rarely see that. So seeing just some flexibility out of Arsene was really nice, and as Danny said, it is the future. And what's frustrating is we used to pave the future, didn't we, with the tiki-taka, fast, high tempo. So we need to get back to that where we are groundbreaking again. So I'd say 3 at the back.
Yeah, and most people did. It was 46% for the move to 3 at the back, 34% for the Scorpion goal, only 6% for Arsene Extends, which puts it into the unique category of being the least best moment of the season and the least worst moment of the season. The same thing, which is Arsene Wenger extending his contract. So the next question was the player of the year not named Alexis, or the Poti Na. as we like to call it. Ox, Xhaka, Ozil, and Mertesacker. I'm pretty sure Mertesacker got 11%, believe it or not, as Player of the Year. Danny, what do you think? Player of the Year.
Ox, right wing back, left wing, right wing, central midfield the other side, the Ozil position a little bit up front. That bloke is the modern day Jules Grimandi. I love him.
He even played center half for one play where he gave the ball to a Bayern defender so that he could score.
Do what he wants. He's my favourite player at the club, apart from the obvious Sanchez.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Man is absolute genius.
Chaz, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Ox partly because he surprised me. I really felt that it was kind of make or break for him, and I felt that it would be break. And I've always felt that he's a little bit too nice for his own good. And in fact, I wrote a thing about him, I think it was last season, where I said Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain is a fascinating bunch of people because he sort of seems to have so many sides to him where he can do something amazing in 1 minute and then do something terrible the next and all that. But yeah, as Danny said, he's been all over. He's just been so good. He's really got his head down, and he's in. If you look at most of the matches that we played well in, or in a hell of a lot of them, he had a good game. And in fact, against Chelsea, that was almost the time where I think he sort of won me more than he ever has before, because you could see he wasn't quite sure. He wasn't quite comfortable in the position that he was in. But my goodness, he was giving it his all. He was really, really going for it. And
he was a great left back.
Yeah,
he was left wing back in that game.
Yeah, and he was so committed that even though you could tell he felt a little bit, he wasn't 1,000,000,000% sure about where he was, about that role. He gave it his all, and I think that he did well. And does seem like a really nice guy, which I know is not what we're talking about, but it doesn't do any harm either. So yeah, definitely Ox.
And he gave an interview after the FA Cup win where I talked about this last week, where I think it was Rio Ferdinand was asking him, this is your natural position, and he was like, well, do you mean left or right? And he was implying that he wasn't as comfortable on the left, but that he was basically happy to play anywhere the team needed him, because especially at the wingback position, because it got him on the pitch. And that's what you want to hear. I know Andy's answer already, so I won't even go to him on this one. But I used to call Ox Mr. July because it seemed like he scored amazing, amazing goals. We saw one in person, Andy and I, in L.A. This summer. But then it would just seem to stop from there, either through injury or just falling out of favor. But he's no longer Mr. July to me, and he's well on his way to being kind of the new current day Mr. Arsenal. If he stays this summer, if we show him the love, he bleeds Arsenal. He's a great locker room guy from everything that I could tell, and he, now that he's maturing and aging, he can be an example to the younger players who are coming through, to Iwobi, to others who may not necessarily get an easy ride into the starting lineup, but how to kind of bide your time and keep being a professional. And I think he really, really needs to be kept second to Alexis on the team as far as urgency to re-sign, in my mind.
Am I right that we've never, I don't know if Danny might know this, but we've never really come up with a song for him, have we? Of any consequence? I can't really think of like a big Ox song. And
no, because he made a joke about that at the LA trip, that some people had made a song for Xhaka, and he'd only been at the club for 2 weeks, and he grabbed the microphone, right, and he went, "What the hell? I've been here for God knows how many years, and I don't even have a song yet."
Lots don't. It all depends on the name. I don't think Tony Adams really had anything proper, did he?
What rhymes with Oxlade-Chamberlain? I mean, it's kind of a complicated thing. Well, he got 50%, the majority of the vote, or half of the vote. But he's the Twitter Arsenal Player of the Year, not named Alexis. Granit Xhaka second with 27. I'm sure that wasn't hurt by his late season successes.
Magnificent to see that Arsenal tweeted his stats, and it was like 91% pass completion over the season. Stunning player. John Welsh was right. He would be brilliant if you let him do his job.
Yeah, let him do his job and give him some time to bed in. I mean, it takes a year sometimes.
I want to see him get the captain's armband as well.
Excuse me, give him some time to bed in.
And hey, if you go online and you look into things that rhyme with Chamberlain, Damelin comes up, paper thin, and salesperson.
How about Waffle-Thin from the Monty Python? It's Waffle-Thin. All right. And you mentioned
wafer, not wafer.
Yeah, well, he says waffle, though.
It doesn't.
All right.
Next
captain of Arsenal. Since you mentioned future captains, we did a poll for the next captain of Arsenal after kind of the Koscielny-Saka duo is done with the captaincy, and not including any players that we don't have yet. This was a very close vote between Alexis, assuming he stays, Rob Holding, Aaron Ramsey, and Granit Xhaka. It was actually a tie at 29% between Xhaka and Rob Holding. And I think it might be just a year too early for Holding, in my personal opinion, which is fine because I don't think Koscielny is giving up the armband next season. But Ramsey and Alexis got 22 and 20%. So everybody ended up between 20 and 30%, but Xhaka, I think, nipped out Holding on goal difference. What do you think, Danny?
Oh, I love being nipped out. Yeah, it has to be Xhaka because the man is fucking immense. You don't have to have the captain's armband to be the captain. He was captain of Borussia Mönchengladbach. That's the most hated man in football. The man at Borussia Mönchengladbach that says "give us a B." That's an actual fact. Yeah, it's going to be him. He is brilliant, but I think Mertesacker going to stay. So Mertesacker will be the captain, and then probably Koscielny will be vice captain, and then I think you can have a couple of vice captains. So yeah, but I'd make him first team captain because he is brilliant, and I always like to have my first team captain as a central defender or central midfielder. I don't think anybody else should have it.
Andy, I of course, we've heard your view on this all season, but what do you think?
Yeah,
what do you have to say?
I think it's Xhaka 100%. I think he would be the Patrick Vieira type of leader for us. He does go in a little bit rash on challenges, but we've seen him kind of cool his jets there. And I think if you give him the armband, he probably doesn't go in a little bit hastily, but I think he'll be that Vieira type captain that will stand up to anyone that challenges one of our players. I thought we saw when he was in Germany the amount of passion he had for that team, and he's captain Switzerland as well, and that's no small feat. So I definitely would go for him 100%.
Excellent. And Chaz, what do you think? Are you a Xhaka guy, or do you think
I am,
Holding?
yeah. Yeah, no, I'm a Xhaka guy. I mean, Holding, I think there's that sort of romantic thing, and there seems to be this sort of growing sort of mini movement for him to be handed the armband. But people say, he's 21, and that was the age that Tony Adams was handed it. But their stories up until they were 21 are very different. Adams, I don't remember the stats, but he was established then, and I absolutely love Rob Holding. I think he's magnificent. But way to screw up his progress. I mean, he played against Liverpool at the beginning of the season, and then I think he played one more after that, and then he sort of dipped out a bit. And actually, that seemed to sort of work well. Whereas I think Xhaka I think he'd be phased by being given it, and that's a really bad thing. And I think Xhaka wouldn't be phased at all. I think he'd just rip it out your hand, roll it onto his upper arm, and then probably headbutt someone. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I could see Rob Holding growing into it in a few years if the captaincy became available in a few years. He won me over like firmly with his antics with Costa, which was as much Mertesacker as it was him. But yeah, Xhaka. I mean, if it's turning over in the next 1 to 2 years, I think Granit Xhaka's got to be the man.
So I was listening to the football ramble this morning, and I don't know if you boys listened to it, but
is that Giles's one?
No, yeah. And
Giles and Amanda, and
they do the Gooner ramble.
No, that's the Gooner ramble. The football ramble is
so many rambles.
I think this is one of the originals because they've been around for a while and they get a couple million listeners, but they cover all football. But they were saying that Holding came out and said that and he had a plan for Costa, and it was good cop, bad cop, where Holding just talked shit to him the entire match, and then whenever he came over, would just rub his back and be nice and gentle to him. And apparently said to Holding, like, let's just mind fuck him the entire match. And so you got to give credit to Holding for doing that because he was immense. But, it's weird, and I don't want to jump on this too quick, but in hockey they make captains at 18, 19, 20 years old, and so I don't think you can ever be too young to be a leader. You just need to be
have
the
right
voice.
experiences. Yeah.
So
Well, I think we have a couple, as opposed to the beginning of the year where we were wondering who those people were going to be. I think we might go into next season having a couple of them already, and that is a positive sign.
But we had this debate a couple of years ago when we were all saying Ramsey should be the next captain, but he was too young.
Well, he was also too inconsistent. But
whoever also gets to be captain next season has to be prepared to spend the entire season not playing any games like Arteta last season and Mertesacker this.
Exactly.
It's a funny thing, the captaincy, because for so many years, like Danny was indicating, like it meant that basically didn't play. And in fact, Vermaelen, before then, I remember in 2014, was it going to be Vermaelen or Arteta who would go up and lift the cup? But before then, we had a weird situation where we'd give the captaincy, I felt, to players to try and keep them at the club, and I didn't like that. I didn't like that at all.
Yeah, Fabregas, Van Persie,
and Henry. They had varying claims to the captaincy, particularly I think Vieira did, obviously, but I didn't like that feeling that we'd give the captaincy to a player partly to keep them on. But that's partly the legacy of having had Tony Adams, who, even if I take my club bias out of it, I think is probably the best captain I've ever seen of a club. He just was 1 billion% a captain, and he was great.
Never see him turning his back on a free kick, would you?
Nope.
He'd stand there and take it.
So we asked our listeners the amount that they think of Arsenal's highest transfer purchase fee this summer, which is obviously something we've touched on with the rumors about the Mbappe bid. And now this is the fee of a completed transfer, not a bid. 3% said it would be between 0 and 10 million. I'm guessing, Danny, that was you.
No, I voted on 3 each time for each poll 3 times. I did the second one. That's the combined transfer fees of every player that we buy this summer. Is that what it is?
No, and maybe I didn't word it as clearly as I should have. The highest any single player that they would spend on any single player. 0 to 10 million, 11 to 35 million, got 9% of the vote. 36 to 55 million, which would potentially approach or set our new transfer record at 27%, and 61% of people thought that we would buy a player for 56 or more million pounds this summer. So
good luck.
A lot of optimistic people there. But those are the Arsenal-related polls. Quickly, just go through the rest of them, which are the I'm just going to read out the results of these. The podcast poll. We asked a question about who the fucking worst dog is, and people did not answer as I wanted them to. Only 16% said Humber, which, there's clearly no worse dog than Humber.
You've got an obsession with his dogs. Why?
Well, because, all the stuff that's going on with him this year, we just assume that he's, that it's all Alexis. But I think Humber, whispers in his ear at night, you can do better than Arsenal, and storm off. People just assume that he's good. And I just would like to open people's eyes to the fact that Humber's a bitch. So, sorry about that. Cujo got the same percentage as Humber at 16%, but Dog the Bounty Hunter apparently is the worst one at 65%.
That's what I picked because his wife makes me feel physically ill.
Oh, she does. She is.
What a lump.
Speaking of lumps, we love our friends at Bergkamp Wonderland, so let's make 2 of them mad. Favorite Bergkamp Wonderland guests that we had on this season. It was a close one, and there was a lot of politicking. Well, there was one person politicking. Congratulations, Danny. You got 34% of the vote as our favorite guest. Yes, you get a 34% trophy. 23% for Chris Carpenter. 16. I'm so sorry. Jason Davies was 16%. Although
no one understands a fucking word he's saying.
But he did earn a permanent spot on our intro, saying that he loves listening to us idiots. But 27%, in other words, second place, went for none of the above. So Danny, you finished just ahead of none of the above, and I'm sorry for the other 2 who we will have back next season because we love them.
You know that you having Jason at the beginning of your podcast you're not the first person to do that. You have You Are My Arsenal with Michael, who runs that, and he got Gav from Shewell, he got him to do an intro to his one, saying something like, we need another fucking Arsenal podcast. So that's 2 of you Americans that are stealing our workforce.
Well, we're bringing jobs back to America, apparently. So we also had another podcast and kind of a cast that we had very good friendly relationships with this summer at the Gooner Talk, or this season at the Gooner Talk TV. So we'll do one for them as well. Best TGT guest, and 55% went with Lee Judges. I saw a lot of retweeting going on from him, so I'm not surprised by that outcome.
I hate when people do that.
Yeah, well, 23% voted for whoever we have on next. So that's kind of their none of the above. And
I'm another winner. Oh,
exactly.
Hey, Danny.
And I will settle a long-time rivalry between Tom Canton, Tom Danny, and
that's who I voted for. I'm good friends with Tom.
Yeah, and Craig, who goes by @ScottyBoyGooner, who created TGT and then kind of handed it over to Tom. Tom got 12% of the vote, Craig 10%. So shockingly, Tom complains that the people ask when Craig will be coming back. But
who's eating cereal? Andrew, stop it!
I'm not eating anything. I'm just wondering why my armpits are sweating so much.
Fat.
Yeah, that might be it.
That's what I get.
All right. Well, and from the last 3 or 4, since we're running long here, from the last 3 or 4 questions I had, I will pick one, which is simply put, biggest cunt. And early on, it was a two-man race between Dele Alli and Mike Dean. And somewhere along the way, people really started pumping up Stan Kroenke, and Stan ended up winning with 43% of the vote.
That's what I voted for.
Dele Alli with 28%, Mike Dean with 26%, and 3% of people said I was the biggest cunt. So I appreciate you, 3
That's
people.
Andrew of all those other fake
I was about
accounts.
to say, I think it was me.
Yeah, that was him. You and your son both voted. So I'll repost the outcome of the others, because we did Andy's worst and most repetitive go-to saying, most shameful podcast moment, which shouldn't be surprising, was the food poisoning pod.
I voted 100% one because I hate it when people say 100%. You can just say yes.
He said it about 15 minutes ago, and I was
keeps farting?
I was gonna go into it then. We're having some audio problems here. The most cringeworthy recurring podcast themes was our never-ending use of the word cock and thinking it was funny. Yeah, really. What is?
Again.
I will take that as a sign to move on to user questions. We have user questions. This is more like the typical podcast. We were too serious for a little while.
Not one penis joke yet, Mike. Not one penis joke.
Well, actually, I had one. Where was it? The cock references actually are going away because I'm kind of figuring he won't be playing as much next season. But we are looking at an amazing new Scottish starlet. Any guesses on his name?
Chuck.
Seamus McPenis from Everton. So we're looking forward to his arrival.
Putting a bid for him.
So stupid.
We're gonna grab him. We're gonna bring him
at half time. Tug him. No, that's it. Tug him.
We're gonna tug him, and we just hope he doesn't suck. All right. So we were gonna do an arson game, which we're just running a little bit too long, so we'll save that for next season. Plus, Andy absolutely forbid me to do it. Listener questions. If you could listen through the flatnesses that are occurring. Andy, get us started.
Oh, where is the Kiwi? We've hit rock bottom, folks.
Okay.
Where is the Kiwi, who is from LA, not New Zealand? He has a picture of Sandy Cazorla and the Cookie Monster on his profile. Why did you write that, Mike?
Because I just think it's it's an interesting juxtaposition. The two things he loves most are the Muppets and Sandy Cazorla.
All right, you're a Muppet. Okay, Danny, where do you see the club in 2, 5, and 10 years? Not in terms of location.
Hopefully location will be somewhere around PE 29, and then I can just go to the games easily.
And then we're going to combine it with the question of Leo Branks, who asks, so basically the same question, can Arsenal realistically become a true force in Europe in the next 3 to 4 years? Danny, take us away.
If you take out the 2 in 3 to 4, it wouldn't be able to do it in 34 years. No, we'll never, ever be a force in Europe, partly because the whole of Europe hates the English, and they probably hate the British as well. Plus, we're not a bunch of diving, cheating arseholes. We don't do bribery and corruption with FIFA and UEFA, and that's the only way you're going to get anywhere in football is via bribery. And as we see from Real Madrid and Barcelona, they are my own views in case you get sued. They are just, they're corrupt. It's a corrupt organisation. They have their favourites, and much like with the World Cup, and much like with the Olympics and the NFL, all these places that are apparently non-profit. I'm sure they're all non-profit, and they're all based in Switzerland, which is all very convenient, and it's all corrupt. But 2 years, nothing will change. We'll be outside of the top 4, and we'll be going, hope Wenger doesn't sign a new contract. Oh, we signed a new contract. 5 years. Hope Wenger doesn't sign a new contract. Oh, he signed a new contract. And as we're slipping down the league, and I think we are in for a very long, barren period, much like Arsenal of the late 70s, early 80s, where the only thing we're ever going to do anything is in the Cups, because we were in the Cup final in 78, lost it, 79, won it, 80, lost it, Cup Winners' Cup final in 80, lost it. And then we had a bit of a run in the late 80s, early 90s with George Graham, where we won 2 League Cups. We win 2? Or was it 2 FA Cups? Oh, you won it in 87 and 93. Won the FA Cup in 93, Cup Winners' Cup in 94, runners-up in 95 of the Cup Winners' Cup. That's the Arsenal we're going to be going back to, because the owner doesn't give a fuck about football, as you two know. He probably, I think he came to the FA Cup final, didn't he, wearing the same suit that he wore at the last FA Cup final. So either that's his lucky suit, or it's the only one he owns.
Or he's actually dead, and they put him out there in the same thing.
Weekend at Stan's is a film coming out.
Weekend at Gronky's.
Yeah, we're going nowhere. That's the gist of it.
And
wonderful.
Well, appreciate that. And then this next question is also from @Where's the Kiwi, and it's going to go to Mike and Chaz, because I feel like Chaz will have his own opinion to this. But he was wondering how he can circumvent his religious morals in order to consume Wendy's Baconator, which Chaz is about 12 pounds of bacon on it, and Mike eats 2 per day. So, Mike,
why are you asking Chaz a bacon related?
It's basically kryptonite to Chaz. He
I know, but I got to keep him I got to keep him on the pod, right? So can't just skip him.
So we're talking about the Torah factor here, yeah?
Yeah.
Because Chaz is more Jewish than I am, and he's not Jewish.
No, exactly, yeah. So it's sort of like it's unqualified and qualified all at once. So I was like, well, how does it do it? Well, like all good Jewish boys, I guess.
And I don't know if he's Jewish or if there's a different religious moral.
Sorry, I thought they were asking how you could do it, how he could do it. I think
Mike is the worst Jewish person ever. That's how he does it.
Yeah, so just offset things, basically. So just, go and, I don't know, help an old bag across the road, on your way to eat this massive Baconator thing. Or if you're Jewish, just have a good Jewish argument about it. 2 Jews, 3 opinions. And then, no, it's a compliment. It's a compliment. Argumentative people, that's a good thing. But, go and...
I was saying oi like oy vey, not like
oi,
stop.
Yeah, not like oi. But,
ring that bell. You said oi.
But yeah, as a vegan, I suppose I should say, why don't you just try a nice vegan burger? Now everyone can think I'm a complete tosser.
There you go. So we have.
They didn't already.
We have it from a vegan. Speaking as a Jewish guy who spent most of Passover in Germany, of all places, eating ham and cheese baguettes. Just eat the Baconator and apologize later. There's always
a picture of it. It looks like a thing of beauty. The only meat I usually eat is quality meat. If it's mashed up for a reason, usually because it contains dog shit. So but when I have a bacon roll, I usually have about 4 slices of bacon per roll. I can't eat cheese. But your cheese isn't real cheese.
I think you were tweeting about that earlier this week about some bacon sandwich that you were eating, which
it.
I can tell you 8 months ago, I never would have imagined that I would someday be learning about this guy who I've never met over in England and the bacon sandwich that he's eating, and actually think it was big news.
You don't have proper bacon either. Your cheese is.
No,
fake.
I like
bacon
your bacon
is
better.
That weird shit.
Yeah,
but it does look good. But I'd just pick the bacon out and leave the rest of it because the bread will probably annoy me.
Well, I'm not sure what the specific morals of Where is the Kiwi are, but He seems to follow the religion of Cookie Monster, but
I see him on Twitter. Yeah,
these days you're fucked whether you eat a Baconator or not, so just might as well go for it. So next
How
question.
much is that thing?
That's the sad part. It's let me try to convert. Well, it's about $7 for the sandwich, so probably about five quid maybe.
59 grams of protein, though. Good for you bodybuilders.
That's what I am. We have a question from one of your favorites, Danny, from Noma Malbanda.
She's brilliant. She's in Holland.
Yes, we finally figured out where she was from, but she's from the Asking Good Questions land, and she says,
"She's a genius.
Can Arsenal grow its brand in the U.S. without winning any of the big trophies? Also, can one of you, I guess meaning Andy and I, one of you adopt me? I want to live in New York City." And to that, I would say Andy and I have full houses right about now. But and your pod favorite James might have a spare room for Noma in New York, right?
James,
or have you learned that he's from Boston and not from New York?
Which one's James?
James, what's the SEO? James CEO.
James, of course, is the one that does the running. Yes, no, he's of Korean descent, so he'll just be eating squid and elephant testicles all day long. Neither of you live in New York, do you?
No.
So but she can't come live here then.
But you thought that James did for like maybe 4 months before he finally got it through.
I'm still not sure which one it is, whether it's Boston or New York, because you got another one as well. The best way to make it big in the USA market, start doing 8XL tops. That's all you need.
I actually have one of those. The reason I wore my Granit Xhaka kit so much this season is because it's the only one that still fits.
Oh, there you go. Get a free Baconator and an 8XL top. That's all you need.
Oh, yeah. Maybe they can sell a top with the Baconator, or the other way around. Either way.
Yeah. A top made of bacon.
Chaz is hung up already.
No, I'm here. I used to love. Before I stopped eating meat, I used to love American. I used to love the delis. Sort of the New York and Carnegie in New York, and then I think there's one in LA that I used to love as well, but I can't remember what it's called. Anyway.
I used to love delis, and then Deli Alley came and cocked that whole thing up.
Yeah. I've not even been to Old York, which is up north somewhere, let alone New York.
Oh, look at that. Sorry, you've tweeted the picture, haven't you? God, that is amazing looking.
Oh, those are Baconator fries.
No, you have a vegan saying that's amazing looking. That's.
Well, I just thought it'd be funny to go and order it and say, but can I just have the fries? Can you pick out the bacon and the cheese? I'll just have the fries.
Yes, we have that. It's called fries or chips.
Yeah.
I'm just tweeting them. I'm on their page of the Baconator. I've just done the tweet and asked them if they can post me one to the UK. I'll see what their response is. They never know. If they respond during the show, you might get a bit of sponsorship from Wendy's.
We've been trying. You know what, though, Mike? Maltesers just made their way to the US, and they responded to my tweet, so maybe we can get them to sponsor us.
Sian got a huge box of that from the people she works at Premier Inn, and before she goes to uni, and she got boss got her a massive box of those, and I ate the entire lot, and I left one in there.
Nice.
There must have been about 60 or 70 in that box. I scoffed the fucking lot, and she said to me, "How many are left?" Eh?
Are those what we call Whoppers, Andy?
Yeah, but they taste a lot better over here. But Danny, they have a 1 pound tub at Costco here.
Yeah, half hour, I'd eat that.
Amazing.
That was only on a Friday am I allowed to eat whatever I want. The rest of the week I have to. I've got guidelines to how much I'm allowed to eat.
You've been trimming down lately. I found all the weight that you've lost, but so at Mr. Arsenal 93, who I believe while we've been podcasting has been tweeting pictures of me at the wrestling event last night. Asks he's clearly a WWE fan.
You went to the wrestling?
Yeah, I'll just look up at Mr. Arsenal 93 and you'll see something semi-amusing.
Because he sends us superb questions. One of them was an essay on the referees, and I saved it for its own segment on the next week's pod because it was that good. He is a very, very good person on Twitter.
And I'm so honored that you were listening to the 5 minutes when I spoke about it at the beginning of the podcast. But
did you? I was here.
It's like 3 hours ago. All right, what would be your wrestling name, Chaz? If put you on the spot. If you were a WWE wrestler, what would be your name?
Okay, is it kind of like a bit like a gangster thing, like a name and then like a little description and then the rest of the name? So it's like
It's whatever you want it to be.
Okay.
Want some time to think
Tofu. Chaz the Big Tofu Nuki Burden. And if that won't get people shitting their pants, I don't know what.
The big tofu.
Yeah.
People just bounce off you.
Yeah.
A bit like Yokozuna.
Nice. Yokozuna. Danny, what do you think?
I would come in to God Save the Queen. I would remind you fucks that we used to own your fucking country, and if you don't behave yourselves, we're taking it back. And it would be Danny, no nickname, Sweetman, and I would come in with the 2 British Bulldogs, even though I don't like dogs or British Bulldogs, and I'd wind the lot of you up. It would be a little bit like, who was that? The Colonel bloke from the 80s. It was
Sergeant Slaughter, and I mean, I don't know what you're talking about. Sorry.
Yeah, that's it. He used to come on with him, so I'd come on and I'd wind you all up a little bit like that, and I'd let you know that I'm here and I'm taking over. Because if I ever came to America, they'd make me king within the hour.
That's pretty similar to this guy
And
Wade
you
Barrett's.
Forced to spell things properly. No more Czech or color or any of that other fucking bullshit. You use the Queen's English. You do it properly.
I think you're describing a couple of characters that have actually been on the WWE with the evil maniacal.
It's WWF. Fuck the pandas.
Andy, what would be your wrestling name other than fuck off?
It would be Andy. I lost my virginity a long time ago. Why does this thing still exist?
That would be your wrestling name.
Yeah, Andy the Cherry Pop. What's your surname, Andy?
Rhodes.
Yeah, that's right. Andy the Cherry Popper Rhodes. In the red
just get
corner,
really, really fat.
Andy the Cherry Popper Rhodes. In the blue corner, Chaz the Tofu Nuki Burden. And then Danny coming in as a wild card.
Every match ends with Child Protective Services chasing after Andy.
Well, Andy, what you could do is just get Mike's diet, and then you could be the third Dusty Rhodes.
That's true. I could
Dusty
be.
Rhodes, nice.
I'll be Dusty Bin then.
Black and yellow spots.
I'm going to go with. Everyone knows about the Undertaker, but I'm going to go with the Overtaker, because when I walk in the room, people are overtaken with my rugged good looks, my size 44 underpants, and the smell of bacon. So it's the Overtaker. I actually put some thought into that. All right. Frisco's Discos. I believe he's asked a question on our podcast before. With the reported $16 million for Szczesny that he's presumably agreed with Juventus, why do we always sell our players at prices from the 2007 transfer market? Begovic just went for $10 million, for fuck's sake.
Well, the Szczesny's agent just came out and said that's not true. He came out in the Polish press and said that's a little bit premature, and that Szczesny's not going to Juve.
Well, that would be nice, because I would like the Szczesny, Szczesny sounds like a country singer. The Szczesny Czech duo next season until Szczesny can take over full time. But Danny, what do you think about the general question, which is, well, when it comes to guys like Serge Gnabry and others, why are we selling them from 10 years ago? Why haven't we realized when we're selling that there's been this huge inflationary thing on player prices? And everyone else has.
Dick Law is a fucking idiot, and because nobody at the club has. I think it's because they're all Americans and they forget to do the conversion, and they probably still think the euro is €2 to the pound like it used to be back in was it 2001 when the euro started. But we've been fucked over on transfers. Just looking at thehighbury.co.uk, which I own, and I've got every transfer on there for the last 30 years or something. Van Persie went for 24 million. Well, he went for 22.5 with a little add-on. That should have been at least 35 million. If we'd have been buying him from, if Barcelona had been selling him, it would have been best part of £40 million. The Cesc Fabregas deal we got fucked over on. As usual, we didn't get paid all, and we don't ever get the money up front either. That's another thing that really winds me up, which is bullshit. How the hell
I doubt we even ever get the money. We probably just forget about it and they never end up paying us.
I mean, Man City, whenever they bought stuff off us, they had to pay in cash. They wheeled it down in a big wheelbarrow, and we got decent money from Man City. But every other one, I mean, like Gael Clichy was £7 million. He was worth bloody way more than that, although he isn't now. And then I'm just looking at some of these other ones. There's I think we got bugger all back on him. Hleb only went for 11.8 million, which was a ridiculous amount of money for someone who was really good.
Adebayor was maybe the only one. Adebayor is really the only one that we got
25.
probably above market value for at the time.
But look at Henry, 16 million quid for some would say the greatest forward ever to play for the club. How the hell was that 16 million? I mean, it may have gone up or down now because when you look at that back in 2007, the exchange rates were different. So back then it was 16 million. So now it works out to be probably about 5 million quid or something stupid like that. No, it'd be a lot less than 16. That player, he should have gone for 30 odd million back then. If we buy a player, we pay over the top. We sell a player, we don't get anywhere near what we should be getting through. Like Ashley Cole, 6 million quid plus Gallas, and they rated Gallas at about 5 million. Ashley Cole, one of the greatest English left backs of all time, 11 million quid. Bullshit. Ridiculous.
I agree.
Vieira, 13 million to Juventus. Fuck off. I mean, it's 2005, but back then, Man City and Chelsea were paying £20 million for players.
Well, and Chelsea, for example, I mean, they buy players, especially during the Mourinho era and just before he came back the second time, but they're buying players, destroying those players' value and still selling them on for more than they bought them for. I mean, De Bruyne and Mo Salah, and I mean, I believe they made money on every single one of those transfers, and that kills me because it seems that every time a player doesn't work out here, he's almost a complete loss, and which is going to play out again, I think, with Lucas this summer because there's no way we get 16 million for a guy that we only started 3 games this season.
People think that back then transfers weren't going for that much, but Man United signed in 2001 or 2000. They bought Verón for £28 million. So it's not like back in the days when we were getting 16 million for Vieira that the most expensive players in the world were going for 15, 20 million. No, they were going for loads more than that. Then Chelsea went and bought him after that. And then I think they paid even more money. Or just a little bit less. It's ridiculous. Every time we get fucked over on it. Oh, Chelsea paid 15 for him, apparently. Yeah, it's a bone of contention with me. It fucking winds me up. It's like they deliberately don't make money on it because they've got no fucking idea what they're doing.
Well, Andy, Dougie Cazorla, our good friend Doug, he was one of our first question askers. He's going to be our last for this season, from Syracuse. If we lose Sanchez, Andy, for $50 million, and we could only get 2 attainable players in this window, not counting Kolasinac, who would those players be?
Have we actually signed that player? Because nothing's come out.
I heard, I think Arsblog had David Ornstein on this week, and he said the Kolasinac thing is done.
Okay.
Done as in it's going to happen, but that the Nigerian guy from the Belgian team was actually all hot air, and that wasn't happening. That was more the guy's dad talking about it than anybody else. So,
2 attainable players in this window. I think we could get Lacazette. I think he was attainable last season. I think he would have been an absolute game changer for us. Is he the type of player that would keep Sanchez? I'm not sure. But in this scenario, we're losing Sanchez. And then I think we need a central midfielder of a Verratti type player. He's not attainable, I don't think. But those would be my 2 players. Something similar to him and then Lacazette for sure. Danny, What do you think?
I was looking at Mike's pictures of the wrestling, so I didn't hear the question. Did you Photoshop that into the board?
No,
that's
actually,
not you holding it, is it?
No, he legit did that. I told him to do it, and he did it.
You didn't tell me to do it.
No,
I do
That's
it every
you
time
behind it holding it.
Yes, I'm holding a.
How did you get that in?
Which, the podcast one or the Arsenal crest?
No, you're holding both of them. Did they let you take massive big boards in, or was it like a rolled up bit of paper?
Well, no, you're supposed to bring signs in. It's just that the signs aren't supposed to have advertisements for a podcast. So that sign was eventually confiscated from me. But the Arsenal crest they kept there. And there's actually a cameraman that works for the WWE who, every 6 months or so when they come into town, we see this guy, and he's a Liverpool fan, and he always, we have some banter back and forth about it because he acts like he's going to, confiscate the sign, and I just keep putting it in his face. He's a nice guy, actually. But
that's amazing. I thought you'd Photoshop. Is that you standing up? You had a black T-shirt on.
Yeah.
Well done.
That's from a fathead. I know they call him something else over in the UK. But the sticker things that you put on your wall and they come right off, I have. We got one of those, and I just put it onto a piece of cardboard and brought it in, and there you go. And Twitter.
Retweet that of all my accounts.
There was equal amounts love and hate on that on Twitter about that, but it was fun. My son was embarrassed. But Chaz, yeah, the two attainable players. Chaz. Since you weren't listening, Danny, we're going to give this question a try. Two attainable players to make up for the loss of Sanchez in this hypothetical.
Aguero. I think there's a possibility we could get Aguero if we put the right money down. And it's got to be like Alexis type players in both cases.
No, I mean just who would we? Not necessarily who can replace Alexis, but who would we likely be able to get that would at least make up for the loss of him? You can interpret it however you like.
Yeah.
Say Fekir of Lyon. He's fucking brilliant.
Yeah, I'll go with him.
That's another hipster pick.
Yeah, certainly is. Yep. Blame Chris. Because it's been reported now that we're in talks with Lacazette. And so imagine if we got Lacazette and we got Fekir, the man who makes Lacazette look magnificent. So we could probably pick both of those up for 70 million quid.
Let's see if we can fuck this up the same way, because Lacazette is the Higuain in this Mbappe Suarez type of scenario. And we did it. We dicked it around with Suarez for so long. We lost out on Higuain. So let's see if that doesn't happen with Lacazette again this summer. And last question: what percentage chance do you give Arsene setting up in a 3-4-2-1 to start the season, Danny?
50-50, because I've got no bloody idea what's going on or with who or any other way. So I'm going to hedge my bets. Actually, what I'm going to do is like that woman on the American TV thing. I'm going to give it 51-59.
Chaz, what do you think? Does he go 3-4-2-1 or is it a 3? Yeah, it's a 3-4-2-1 or is it a 3-4-3? I guess it doesn't really matter.
What next season?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think. Firstly, I would say that which of those versions it is. This sort of formation is one people can name different ways. And last week I wrote an article for The Guardian and I called it 3-5-2, which is kind of like of the different ways of describing the current formation, that's probably the weakest. And I woke up at about 3 a.m. and I reread my article like a proper tosser because I knew it was going in the following morning's paper. And I reread it in my sent items. And when I got to 3-5-2, I shouted and woke up everyone in the house going, "Oh, fucking hell, I couldn't believe that I'd managed to use the weakest one." I think he'll probably go. I've got a feeling he might even go back to 4-4-2. I just get the feeling he did that just to keep his job.
Was that a plug?
And that he'll go back to. I wouldn't be surprised if he reverted back, because there was a whole thing when he joined. We had a sort of 3/5 at the back then, and he quickly went back to 4.
And Andy, just because we want to hear you say it one more time, what percentage chance do you give Arsene setting us up with 3 in the back?
100%.
Say 110. That's even more annoying.
That's not what it's for, but I'll do it for you anyway. All right. I think it's 100% chance that he starts off. I mean, he's not one for change, and when he changes and it works, he'll keep using it until about 14 to 15 months after it stops working. So I think he'll start the season off with that. And thank you to all of our listeners for not only this week's questions. A lot of times when we run long, we skip the questions. It makes people like Danny think that we can't get questions and that we have no listeners. Thank you for that plug.
Because you keep going on about it.
Well, we're self-deprecating. We like to deprecate ourselves. I think that is, or defecate or whatever it is. But
shit your pants, you mean?
Exactly. Yeah. So this year, 46 pods, 29 guests. It's been a wild ride. We're going to do it again next season if Andy and I can get along enough over the summer. But Andy, I wanted to thank you personally for coming up with this ridiculous idea.
It's been brilliant.
And even more ridiculous, asking me to do it with you. So I thought it was just idiocy. And really it has been, but idiocy that people are listening to. So, and Danny, again, I can't say enough about how much you're picking up on us and mentioning us in October. Just kind of introduce us to new markets, and it's been fun. It's appreciated.
We shall continue it through the next season. Then after that, I want you have to repay me the $5 or my own weight in Baconators.
By that point, the $5 might actually cost more, but. Chaz, any plugs that you would like to put in about what are you up to lately? Who you're writing for? What are you up to?
Well, I did a piece for The Guardian last week about Wenger re-signing and just made the point that perhaps it's time that we forgot about AKB and WOB and remembered about AFC, which I was quite pleased with the poetry of the final line. I've just finished one about Tony Adams for 442, which is people are either going to love it or hate it. I tweet all of these articles out at All That Chaz on Twitter, so that's the best plug I can do for those. Thank you.
Perfect. And Danny, what do you guys pod through the summer, or are you going to take a break and forget about all the hard times this season? What does your summer look like?
Well, we're talking to the publishers of Tony Adams' book, and they said that they're given us a few copies and a signed copy to give away, but they haven't sent them to me yet. So we are going to do one. Gimli wants to do one final season goodbye, and then through the summer we probably do a few after darks that will be highly litigious.
Going back to those.
Yeah. So. Maybe we're just, I was thinking of doing a transfer roundup. You know, everyone makes a big deal about it and does all these YouTube videos, and this would be me and Gimli going, any transfers, Gimli? No. Well, thank you very much and good night. And they'll be like 30 seconds long and do one of them once a week. Just to join in with all those fucks that just do 3-minute videos and get 500 million views on it, and they just do it for the sake of doing it rather than having anything constructive to say because they're all fucks.
Well, we're ending off on
that aren't.
We're ending off on a positive note there, but
the longer the pod, the better the quality of the show. That's what I say, because most of these morons are incapable of talking for more than about a minute and a half without doing a quick cut or changing the subject to something else where they can pause it and restart it. If you notice that, it drives me fucking crazy. If you can't talk continuously for 2 hours about something you love, then fuck off and give up.
Well, maybe they make good wrestling characters. Do some promos. and Andy, what you obviously have a lot of wonderful bonding time coming up. Now that we're hanging up the pod for most of the next couple of months, you might actually get to meet your son.
Yes. I have, like I said in the beginning of the pod, a lot of human growth hormone going into that kid. So now I just got to get him walking and kicking a ball, and then he's set to go.
Who is he going to play for, though? Will he play for the US of A or will he play for England?
My wife already knows, because this conversation has been had, that he will be representing Great Britain or England at any moment that happens. And we also have discussed, because they start kids over here in Colorado skiing at 2, if he could just make it down the mountain without falling over, I'm pretty sure he could be on the British skiing team. So we've got a shot here, Daddy. We have a shot.
Is he the new Eddie the Eagle Edwards?
He might be the new Eddie the Eagle, yes.
Awesome. Well, I think that just about ties it up with a bow, and it's been fun. Andy, anything else you want to say?
No, thank you again to Danny and Chaz for being on today, and
Absolutely.
to all the listeners too.
Wonderful, and you never know. We might just pop up in the middle of the summer with some stupid crap that we thought up. But please keep interacting with us on Twitter. We've really enjoyed our listeners, getting to know you guys and ladies, or lady, our one female listener who we love baked goods from. But anyway, it's been fun. Come on, you Gooners.